Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Fernie City Council held at 6 p.m. on December 12th, 2023. Kisukukit. We acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukinamakis, the unceded traditional territory of Yakutat Nucleat. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. Ikanahunik are from Yakutat Nucleat and are members of the Tanaha-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. I'll call the meeting to order, and I will begin by announcing the winners of our 2023 Snowplow Naming Competition. So we've had over 50 submissions for the contest, and we've had amazing creative input from our youngest citizens, and it was difficult to choose. We had a very select committee of folks to choose the 5 winners, and so 5 classrooms will win, and 5 pieces of our snow plow clearing equipment will be labeled with the winning names. So keep an eye out for them, and as they head down the streets this winter. And the winning classrooms will be invited to our operations facility in the new year to see them up close and to learn how they're used. And each classroom will also receive a little trophy emblazoned with the name. This one is, I won't say the name because it is one of the winners, but here are the following winners. Cleopathra from Mrs. Bell's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday class at the Bright Beginnings Preschool. Snow Mama from Ms. Barris's grade 2 class at École Isabelle Dickin Elementary. Mr. Pickle from Ms. Foskin's grade 4 class at the Fernie Academy. Darth Blader from Mr. Hansen's grade 5 class at École Isabelle Dickin Elementary. And I know this was a personal favorite of our deputy clerk, Ms. Daniel. Christmas Potato from Ms. Verdi's grade 3 class at the Fernie Academy. So thank you for all the youth that participated and all the classes that participated. It was a difficult thing to pick the ultimate winner, but we look forward to seeing certainly Christmas Potato on the streets this winter. Moving on, I'll ask for approval of the agenda and one late item, and I'll ask Mr. McConnell to read the late item if you don't mind.
That a late attachment for item 8.1 titled Public Submissions be added to the agenda, and that the agenda be adopted as amended.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Hamilton. Seconder, Councillor Ramadas. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. The agenda is adopted as amended. And before we enter into the public participation period, I'll again turn to Mr. McConnell. He has some remarks to make in advance.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just want to speak to item 8.1 on the agenda, which has the capacity for people to make public comment on it with respect to our bylaw. And I'm going to provide further information on this before 8.1 comes before council as well. But prior to November 30th, there was still a possibility for that bylaw to have gone to a public hearing, and council could have directed that tonight if they so chose after considering the public submissions. However, the legislation was changed effective November 30th, subsequent to written comments being authorized, which I'll get into. So if any comments come during public participation period to bylaw 2499, council should be mindful that those comments are not able to be properly evaluated as they would be in a public hearing, as there is no opportunity to question the input, nor for the proponent or any opponent to respond. So it's just be mindful that if somebody does wish to speak to 2499, how council should be considering to receive this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. So I'll now open the floor to public participation and invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit. And a speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes. So I'll turn to our gallery and ask if there are folks present who would wish to address council. And seeing none, I'll ask Ms. Rhodes if there is anyone online who's indicated a desire to speak. Thank you very much. That moves us along then to item 8.1, zoning bylaw number 1750, a report from the our manager of planning, Mr. Similini.
If I may, Your Worship.
Please.
Thank you. So again, as I described, I want to give a bit of background as to what's happened legislatively and the position that we're in tonight. Council's decision to not hold a public hearing and to direct staff to bring the bylaw back for 3 readings was made on November 14th. Public notice commenced the week of November 20th by mail to affected properties by posting it in public notice posting places, including the Fernie Free Press. The public notice provided for written submissions to be received. Since then, Bill 44, Housing Statutes Residential Development Amendment Act 2023, received 3rd reading on November 29th and royal assent on November 30th. Bill 44 specifically prevents council from holding a public hearing on a residential zoning bylaw if the bylaw is consistent with the official community plan and other matters. Bylaw 2499 meets all of the requirements of Bill 44, and the holding of a public hearing is precluded. So the public submissions are attached. However, this is not a public hearing. Council should be mindful that submissions received to bylaw 2499 are not able to be evaluated as they would have been in a public hearing, as there is no opportunity to question the input, nor for the proponent or the opponent to respond. So you have them, but just be mindful of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Mr. Similini, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So bylaw 2499 to text amend the comprehensive development 3 zone for a development at 190 Whitetail Drive. So the last meeting, we went over this in a little bit more detail. I'm going to run through the application very quick, and then if we want to discuss, we can. So this is to facilitate the construction of 2 apartment complex buildings, totaling 156 dwelling units, which will be rental. The main part here is the original CD3 zone was written for a certain type of development, and it actually included the built form right into the CD3 bylaw. And the new developer of the site is wishing to go to a different built form. So this bylaw text amendment would facilitate a different built form on that site than what was previously permitted. So the bylaw is written to confirm maximum height at 20.5 meters for buildings. Originally, the bylaw did have several different maximum heights for several different buildings, but 20.5 was a maximum height listed in the original CD3 bylaw. It will also confirm setbacks in writing rather than through a map. The setbacks were in writing before, had front yard, rear yard, side yard, but then also the map supplemented that. It really explained it well. What we've done is listed the setbacks to be more specific in writing rather than having to supplement a map. So we've removed the map from the bylaw itself. It will reduce parcel coverage from 40% to 20%. So an overall reduction of massing on the site. It will amend parking regulations to match what was previously issued in a development variance permit, down to a total of 219 stalls, as opposed to 2 parking stalls per dwelling unit. It will be 1.4. and it removes references to attainable housing and town housing requirements in the bylaw. Again, originally the original bylaw was for a luxury condo development. So there was an attainable housing component with that, I believe a total of 4 units. Given that we are going to a rental type development here, and there also is a covenant on title that are going to be part of discussions with the developer, we can remove that from the zoning. So here's a quick visual comparison of the site that we had looked at before. I just put it all into one page instead of several. The top band there is the buildings that are proposed, and then the red line shows the buildings that were previously permitted. The bottom left is the siting of the buildings, showing the setbacks. And then the bottom right is just a screenshot of the development variance permit that confirms 219 parking stalls. So as Mr. McConnell noted, on November 14th, council decided to not have a public hearing for this. And then on November 30th, Bill 44 was given royal assent. So council's decision on November 14th to not have the public hearing is consistent with what the legislation is today. So the legislation changed between, but council's decision again was consistent with that. Even though there is no public hearing, it is still legislated that we do public notice. So that public notice was given on November 22nd. And that brings us to today where we can do first, second, and third reading. So when we are not having a public hearing, public notice needs to be given before first reading, which is why we did not give first and second reading to the bylaw on November 14th. Of the public feedback, 12 letters were received, 7 were in support and 5 were in opposition. Of those letters that were in opposition, many of the points of opposition were not related directly to the content of the bylaw itself and were more against the overall development densities, things like that. Those densities were already set into the original bylaw. Again, parking was previously permitted through a variance. There was one letter that wished that there was a public hearing, but again, we cannot have those now. And then some comments on accessibility to the site through Solemn Drive versus Montaigne Parkway. And then wildlife corridor, things like that. Again, this site could have been developed under the previous bylaw. So a lot of those comments really can't be considered in the same in the context of the development.
Sorry, Mr. Similini. Councilor McIsaac, you had a question?
Thank you, Worship. More of a comment, I suspect, under the legal and statutory procedural requirements right now, it does indicate that a notice of public hearing was mailed to registered owners during 100-meter radius that's listed on page 8. I presume that's probably a typo and it should have been not a notice of public hearing sent out. In fact, I'm assuming that didn't actually happen.
If I may, Your Worship, if you look at the agenda package, you will see the actual public notice that was provided. It is attached to the agenda as well. And it is not for a public hearing. It's public notice.
So we should probably remove that so we're not breaking the law according to our agenda.
Yeah, yes, Your Worship, through the Councillor McIsaac, that is a typo. So the notice did go out, but it was not a notice of public hearing. It was just a notice of the bylaw coming forward tonight. Yeah. So our recommendation tonight is that council give first, second, and third readings to the bylaw, and I will let Mr. McConnell read the resolution.
Please.
Is there more, before I do that, is there more questions?
Are there questions for Mr. Similini? Seeing none, Mr. McConnell.
Certainly, Your Worship. The recommendation is that zoning bylaw number 1750, amendment bylaw number 269, bylaw number 2499, 2023 be given first, second, and third reading.
A mover, Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? I just wanted to say that I'm very excited about this opportunity for our community. 156 dedicated rental units is very exciting, full stop. And it is a missing segment in our market. And it's going to provide housing options for people who otherwise wouldn't find housing in Fernie. And I think that's very exciting. So I'm very grateful that this is moving ahead. So with that, if there's no other comments, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Similini.
Thank you, Worship. Council.
Moving on to item 8.2, a report from the Deputy Director of Finance, Ms. Cook, on municipal facilities and parks user regulation.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are presenting the municipal facilities parks user regulation bylaw 2484 with the CPI increase for the new 2024 rates. We don't have any presentation for this, but you can all see the new rates in the attachment. Just as a side note, because CPI doesn't come out until mid-late January, we are using 2022 CPI to be implemented as of January 1st, 2024, and et cetera. That gives us lots of time to bring it before you each year with a new CPI rate. Gives the team lots of time to implement the new rates and then have them effective as of January 1st.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. So just to clarify, basically, we're going to be using a 1-year lag on the CPI
Yes.
rates?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? I have a question, just not specifically to the bylaw. It was a question that was raised in the report last time about the rate that Tech was being charged for the community center, because I couldn't make the math work. And I wonder if Mr. Burdett, if you've...
We did find a typo in the rate for the Tech rental there.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much a typo, it's just that the rate is a mixture of a daily rental rate, but also there's a new agreement with Tech in terms of recovering some lost revenue from user groups that otherwise would have booked the community center this month. So it's difficult to take a rate from the bylaw and come up with those hours, because it's kind of a separate agreement that we've had with them. And I can circulate to yourself and council the exact math behind that rate in the report, but the report itself is accurate, but again, it's just hard to form the math just using the bylaw rates itself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that feedback. I don't need to see the numbers. I would just, the way it was described in the report wasn't, couldn't derive those numbers. So thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it. Any questions for Ms. Cook? Seeing none, I will ask that Mr. McConnell read the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. The staff recommendation is that municipal facilities and parks user regulation bylaw number 2484 2023 be given second and third reading.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cook. This moves us along to item 8.3. 2023 to 2027 5-year financial plan bylaw, a report from our Director of Finance, Mr. Burdett.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Hello, council. Good evening, members of the public. Great. Tonight, I intend to walk you through the proposed amendment to our 2023 financial plan. Here's our agenda, starting with why do we need to amend our financial plan? And then we'll follow that by looking at previously approved changes by council and how they relate to our 2023 budget. We'll then talk about year 2 of the 2023 financial plan, how exactly that works with respect to purchasing larger larger and or more urgent capital items, and what exactly the goal is with this year 2 amendment. And just a point of clarity, year 2 of our current budget is 2024. So anytime I say year 2, I mean 2024. And I just want to be clear on that phrasing because this isn't the 2024 budget we're talking about tonight. Everything we discuss tonight will also be discussed as part of that 2024 process. But tonight, this is specifically year 2 of the 2023 budget, which is a different bylaw altogether. And so after we talk purchasing, I just want to close out the meeting by reviewing our reserve balances as per the 2023 budget, and also have a look at our meeting schedule for the 2024 budget process. So why amend? The community charter is clear that a municipality cannot budget for a deficit and that a municipality may amend its financial plan during the year for unplanned expenditures. We have several items as they relate to our 2023 budget, which have previously been approved by council throughout the year, and I'll touch on those in the next 2 slides. Another reason to amend is that we can also amend future years or year 2 of the financial plan. As you all know, continuing supply chain issues have made it a challenging environment for purchasing. And so staff would like to get started on some of our bigger and or more urgent items scheduled for next year as early as possible before local and provincial suppliers and contractors have their work plans set for the year. As you can see by the yellow highlight on the screen, we had just under $16.4 million worth of projects in our year 2 budget. And staff does have the legal authority to continue operating into year 2 using our year 2 plan. That said, it's generally considered best practice to refresh and update council of these larger and more urgent projects before staff begins the purchasing process in January. This is now our second year doing this sort of year 2 amendment. Last year being the first, we brought forward 6 vehicles and a backhoe to council for consideration as items that we wanted to start purchasing early this past January. And to date, we received the backhoe and 9 vehicles, some of which were dating back to prior year purchases. And so while, we have great people doing really good work purchasing, I don't think that this new practice of amending our second year budget really hurts our chances. So I think we're on the right track with respect to getting these purchases going quickly. And so of this $16.4 million in the yellow highlight, staff would like to discuss with council roughly $1.6 million worth of capital projects that were in the year 2 budget. And we'll get to those in more detail in 3 slides from now. But first, these next two slides are 8 items that pertain to our 2023 budget. I will go over these fairly quickly as they were previously discussed at length in council meetings and approved by council. But April 25th, all of these dates, by the way, are dates of council meetings. So on April 25th, council approved a temporary engineering services contract to cover an internal leave. The majority of this contract was to be funded from our existing salary budget, but there was some additional budget needed for our wastewater compliance strategy and the fire hall planning phase. And those 2 items were to come from the sewer reserve and facility renovation reserve, respectively. On May 25th, council approved the contract for the fire hall planning services with Arcadis, and this required an additional $104,000 from the facility renovation reserve. On June 27th, council approved the contract for the roadworks program in the annex to Border Holdings. This contract resulted in an additional $584,000 to be funded from the Transportation Infrastructure Reserve. On July 18th, council approved the completion of the Mount View dike upgrades and also the Mount McLean culvert. This project required an additional roughly $25,000, which was to be funded from the Stormwater Reserve. On August 22nd, council approved the reopening of the Elko gravel pit, which required an additional $25,000 from the General Capital Reserve. September 26th, the city was successful in a $1.98 million grant application for the Mount View Dike bin wall And so our budget is amended to reflect this additional grant revenue and also additional capital expenditures. November 14th, Council approved the purchase of curbside organics bins. These bins are partly to be funded by a grant we received and partly to be funded by the Canada Community Building Fund Reserve, which used to be called the Gas Tax Reserve. And lastly, what staff is calling the Consolidated Infrastructure Renewal Project was a grant the city applied for and was in our 2023 budget. As we were unsuccessful in this particular grant application, our budget must be amended to remove this project from grant revenue and capital expenditures. Oh, sorry. And lastly, oh no. Apologies. I mixed up my pages. And as for the intended year 2 budget amendment to help us get a head start on the purchasing process, we have the following 8 capital items. Reservoir structural remediation, there was originally $922.5 thousand in the 2023 budget for this, plus $1.5 million in the 2024 budget. But as we've understood more of what's required here, the total for this project is now estimated to be only $1.3 million, which is lower than the original estimate of $2.4 million. That said, we still expect some of those saved reserves will need to be used in the future after this particular reservoir project is completed. The MCC at the Aquatic Center supplies power and contains overload protection for various motors, pumps, and equipment at the Aquatic Center. These are critical safety mechanisms. The current MCC is located in a damp environment in the back of the Aquatic Center. The components are corroded and starting to fail, and because of its age, it's becoming increasingly difficult to find replacement parts for repair. The new unit, valued at $80,000, would be relocated to the electrical room to provide more protection. And also in line with critical safety mechanisms, there's plans to create a first aid room and install a defibrillator at the operations facility for $20,000. Max Turk needs a rooftop unit replaced with a gas unit for $15,000. That was originally in the year 2 budget for $30,000, so a little less there. We had a man lift originally in the budget for $80,000, but we're expecting that it's likely that will be closer to $120,000. The wastewater lagoon compliance, Council's heard a couple of reports about this. This is a total project budget of $342,000. This project's already started and is already in the 2023 budget. This is just purely on the list to inform Council that it will be carrying into 2024. The Parks and Rec Master Plan, which is still estimated to be $50,000, but we'd like to begin sourcing options for that as soon as possible. And lastly, the next stage in the fire hall project, which is the public assent process, obviously depending on site selection, which is still currently ongoing. This slide is here to show our 2023 ending reserve balances. There's more detail in your report about which reserves have changed, but the reserves affected by tonight's 2023 amendments that were previously approved by Council are the general capital, the Canada Community Building Fund Reserve or gas tax, transportation infrastructure, facility renovation, and sewer reserve funds. And lastly, before I close, here is the proposed schedule for our 2024 budget process. There are a couple of items options, for Council to consider with respect to our initial 2 budget meetings. One option is to have separate special meetings on Monday, February 12th and February 19th for operating budget and capital budget. Alternatively, we could include these 2 staff reports as part of the regularly scheduled Council meetings on the Tuesday, the 13th, and then the Committee of the Whole meeting on the 20th of February. And for reference, last year's operating budget meeting was just under 2 hours and the capital meeting was around 3 hours. But I wanted to give Council the option on the 2 nights. I'm not sure if anybody had any thoughts or comments about that.
Councillor Ramirez?
My preference is more the merrier, Your Worship.
The more meetings, the merrier?
Yeah.
Councillor Nixon?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering about the availability of the senior center at that time on the 12th and 19th.
Mr. McConnell?
I received a message confirming that February 19th is actually holiday. It's family day.
I'm of a mind that, like, as Councillor Ramirez, it's a complex process, and the more meetings, the more comfortable I feel actually going through that information. But
Okay.
Turn to council. I see lots of nodding heads. Yeah. Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to say I'm not a more the merrier meetings kind of guy. But having said that, this particular piece of work that council is responsible for, I think, is important enough to have its own meeting for, so that that's all that's being focused on, and we're not being distracted by other issues during it. So
Agreed. So I think there's your answer, Mr. Burdett.
Great, thank you for that. And I will sort out the logistics of the holiday on the 19th.
Thank you.
So then February 29th will be the budget open house here at the Senior Center, which I have confirmed the availability for. So that's that date is locked in. And March 12th, and I apologize, in your agenda report, I accidentally skipped over this meeting, but March 12th will be summary of public input, a recap of the budget thus far, and then direction from council to prepare a bylaw with specific direction on a tax rate. And then that will leave March 19th, not the 12th, as it's in your report, and onwards to begin the readings of the 2024 budget bylaw. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Happy to answer questions.
Questions from council? Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was just wondering, in previous meetings, we had that request around what our current spend rate is and what our budget was. Where are we on that project?
Thank you, Councillor Ramirez. It's a little early to give an exact number because it's still December and work is still happening, and you know, suppliers have a fairly significant lag time with respect to invoices. So I don't have exact numbers for you on that yet, but I can say that just in our initial budget meetings, there are several projects that will be carried forward to 24 or presented to council as carry forward items. I don't have the exact number, but it's not 100% our spend to plan. If I had to guess at this point in time, I would say it's between 50 and 60%, and just in terms of dollars, not necessarily like number of projects.
Other questions? I wanted to ask Mr. Burdett, there was, and you forgive me, I'll get the numbers wrong, but there was the amount allocated for the organic bins. And then there was in the report, of course, we directed Engineer Line, I believe, to seek additional grant funding to go to bear resistant bins versus animal resistant bins. Do we have a sense of how that conversation has gone in terms of the additional grant funding? Mr. Baranowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to all of council. Ms. Line and I have communicated with a number of agencies. We have yet to determine a new available funding source for that program. We have so far been in touch with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the provincial government, the Union of BC Municipalities, and the Columbia Basin Trust to explore those options and opportunities, as well as discussing what feasibility studies and background data the Regional District of the East Kootenay, who are the driver of organics diversion in the processing plant in Sparwood, what background data they have, as many of these granting opportunities require feasibility studies or background data. And so we continue to work on it, but it has not been successful to date.
So there was no appetite from the existing funding stream to add additional funds?
That is correct.
Okay.
The existing funding stream was oversubscribed in terms of applications and is fully spent.
Thank you. Appreciate the efforts to find alternatives. Thanks. Other questions from council? Seeing none, I'll ask Mr. McConnell. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just have a follow-up question to Mr. Burdett there. So when you said 50 to 60%, those are the ones that have been invoiced and you have the costs available right now? Did I understand that right? Or is it 60% of what the budget was?
Please.
No, thank you, Councillor Ramirez. The actual invoiced amount would be lower than that right now. That's purely my estimate, just based on my knowledge of what's been happening and what hasn't been happening, and what I expect to come through by year end. And just to put it into perspective, for someone, I guess, with your background, we don't have a monthly accrual process like you're used to, and so, because we just don't have the manpower to run that and to run around and get accruals and things like that. So our year-end accruals typically aren't really done until early to mid-February, when we really start digging into year-end and working on our statements and audit and whatnot.
Further?
Thanks, Your Worship. Is it just purely a matter of manpower, or is there any other way to figure that out?
Thank you. Purely manpower. Yeah, we don't apart from reconciling our bank and getting the departments their monthly reports. We don't. Aside from those two things, we don't have a real need for a solid month-end process. We don't have any external reporting that's due. So, even if I had the manpower, I'm not sure it would be worth spending extra money to get that monthly reporting locked in.
Thank you, Mr. Burdett. Just so I understand so when you say in terms of your response to Councillor Ramirez's question, when you say 60% by year end, that's 60% burn rate on the 2023 budget in terms of projects realized and money spent.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. I was the 60% I was meaning to be like a success rate.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, which is actually, I would say, higher than the past, since I've been around for 3 years.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarity. Thanks. Any other questions? Seeing none, if Mr. McConnell could read the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. The staff recommendation is that 2023 to 2027 5-year financial plan bylaw number 2487 2023, amendment bylaw number 1, bylaw number 2506 begin in first, second, and third reading.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Further discussion? All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdett. Item 8.4, there's no report. It is a staff recommendation for adoption of the council procedure bylaw number 2446, amended bylaw number 3, amendment bylaw number 2504, 2023. And that, of course, will be in your report. Any discussion? Oh, mover, Councillor Hamilton. Seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And this moves us, oh, wait a minute. There was something highlighted on this page. Okay, I did. Thank you. I've done that before. Item 9, Council Strategic Plan, a report from our Director of Asset Management and our CAO.
Your Worship, if I may, our Director of Asset Management, Ms. Jansen, will be providing the presentation today.
Thank you. Ms. Jansen, welcome back from vacation.
Thank you, Worship.
Apologies, I'm just having trouble opening this PowerPoint. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present the Council Strategic Plan, the 2023 to 2028 plan. While this document represents a vision from Council and a mission and several, quite a lot of work ahead of us, I'd like to take the opportunity to just celebrate that we've got here to this point. It's quite a milestone. Thank you to Council for participating through this process and to my colleagues. Council strategic plan, the role of Council is to set direction for the community. It's been a while since we've had a formal document like this presented. So just reminding folks who are in the gallery today of Council's role in setting that direction and their focus for the organization. So why strategic planning? Again, vision setting, goal setting for the community, focusing decision-making and resource allocation and policy development, coordination and collaboration within the community and within the organization, as well as transparency and accountability, or communication and engagement, as well as long-term sustainability. I think there's too many PowerPoint presentations open in the computer here that it's just doing a circle. Apologies, just give me a moment.
Take your time, no need to apologize.
My presentation is image heavy, so that's why it's being so slow. There we go. So just talking a little bit about the project timeline that got us here today. So we started in March 2023. So after Council was elected in November and went through their onboarding and Council University, we kicked that off with Council workshops and an external expert facilitator on this topic. We went through into June, July with Council reviewing that and having some additional workshops to focus that work. And then through into several staff workshops over the summer and fall months that brought us to the point of bringing forward a draft plan here to Council. So it's been a journey, and through this has been a full redevelopment of our strategic planning process internally. And so it has been a foundation piece that we've built and can learn and build on in future years here. So it's taken a while for us to get here, but we've created a roadmap and an opportunity to evaluate and build on that. So that brings us to today with the plan and presentation at the meeting here in December. So contained, as you've all seen, a copy of the strategic plan in the report, and hopefully some of the folks in the gallery have seen that as well. But in there, council has set out a vision of being respectful, responsible, and a resilient community, with their mission to foster a livable community by providing quality services through organizational excellence. Through these workshops, you guys really workshopped these words and became the foundation and that focus for the plan. So within the document, you set out several values: leadership, kindness, fiscal responsibility, forward thinking, integrity, and resilience. These will be the lenses at which you've committed to each other in terms of reviewing and prioritizing work and how you make decisions. And through the several late nights of working through these objectives, you've landed on some very great focused areas: quality services, livable community, and organizational excellence. So council is focusing, these are the three focus areas for this document, which then follows through with goals and strategies to achieve all of these. Not contained in this report itself, but will be in the implementation plan, is the success metrics as well. And I'll speak to that a little bit later. So I may just jump back here. So how I'm going to walk through this presentation is just introduce the objective area and then move into the goals and speak at a high level to the various strategies. And if any folks want to stop and ask questions, by all means. So quality services, deliver dependable, sustainable services that meet the expectations of the community. So these are the two goals that council set. They're really focused on, they've heard from the community, and they're focusing on improving community engagement as well as improving our foundation practices and understanding around services that we deliver. So service insight. Both of these goals contain several strategies around foundation building practices. So these here are in the plan. We've got several strategies to each of the goals. This one being the community engagement goal. And strategies include improving citizen satisfaction, reviewing our processes, and improving customer service, as well as improving opportunities to engage with the city and with council through improved civic engagement. Stepping through to the second goal of service insight. Oh, sorry. There's actually 5 strategies to that one. So also improving general city communications and further engagement opportunities. With regards to strategies on service insight and those foundation practices, establishing a more robust service industry, something that is available to council and the public, is consistent across all service levels, so that we understand and start developing capacity internally and within the community to have meaningful dialogue around services and the costs of those and service levels, et cetera, as well as a focus on conducting service reviews more consistently and through a standardized practice, as well as focusing our budget reporting around services. So moving on to the second objective area, focus area, is livable community. I'm just going to step back a couple here. So livable community. So ensuring citizens can flourish in an inclusive and diverse community with sustainable infrastructure, amenities, and services. So council here, definitely you can see there's 7 goals here, and there was a lot of areas of focus that you've put forward here. So looking at inclusion and reconciliation, housing and childcare, housing diversity, affordability, community services, climate policy, and asset management.
Sorry, Ms. Jansen. First, because I don't want to miss this, I wanted to thank you in particular and the team for your support through this strategic plan development process, because it was, you're right, a lot of late nights and a lot of wordsmithing and ideas going back and forth. So I very much appreciate the support. I did want to ask under inclusion and reconciliation, on this slide. I'm looking on 2 monitors here. I apologize. Meaningfully advance inclusion and reconciliation within our communities. Like, is that meant to capture our Indigenous partners community, or are we talking about our community? Like, it's plural, and I apologize if I'm being nitpicky, but if you can sort of shed some light on that language.
Thank you, Your Worship. Words do mean things, so let's get some clarity here. And this was a last edit from last week on our draft, and I was in Mexico on a beach. So I'm going to pass this one over to CIO Boranowski to respond.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Through to council and your worship. The intent in the work that we had done following a meeting with Yakadakliat and reviewing commitments to truth and reconciliation calls to action, and also the importance of meaningful relationships, was to look at the language used and lean into your council, mayor and council statements at that meeting and statements of our Indigenous partners around meaningfully or advancing meaningful relationships and inclusion and reconciliation in our communities. So communities of different peoples, communities of belief, and physical communities where we live, how we integrate and reconcile between them. So
thank you.
Very large.
I read it like that. I just wanted to ensure that I was understanding the intention correctly. So thank you.
All right. So again, I'll talk at a clip because this one is significant. There's 7 goals in this area and so many strategies to achieve that. And again, the full document is attached to this report, and we will be developing through the implementation plan a communication strategy, and you'll start seeing these things should you adopt it today throughout our budget process and online as well. So this inclusion and reconciliation goal looks at advancing those authentic relationships as well as equitable opportunities in the community, not just within committees of community, but equitable opportunities to participate in services within our municipality as well as engagement initiatives. So looking at housing and childcare, council's really focused here on improving access. So, you know, local government has a certain role in childcare, and you've looked to leverage underdeveloped city-owned lands and look at existing and new facilities to create additional childcare spaces and non-market housing. On the housing diversity front, looking at strategies to improve the diversity of housing types in our neighborhoods, looking at aging in place, incentives, multi-generational as opportunities, as well as creating complete neighborhoods. So on the affordability of housing or affordability front, looking at our services and fees and setting policy-based subsidies, looking at opportunities to reduce our infrastructure deficit within projects that we're already pursuing, looking at opportunities to redistribute costs across the community so as to reduce the burden on certain areas of the community. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. So this is a philosophical observation of mine, and I've made this observation before, and you're smiling, so you maybe expect what I'm going to say. But in services and fees, I'm not a huge fan of the word subsidy because it is an economic word and not a community word. Like for me, philosophically, I'd prefer a word like policy-based support targets because that has a different nuance in the context. So I don't want to wordsmith it here, but that would be my preference.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I actually wrote that down on my notepad after the recreation fees bylaw was in front of you a few weeks ago. And I said, change that. And I didn't make that happen. So we can certainly make that change if council would like to see that word change.
Personally, I just think it provides a different lens. And when we look at the forgive me, the values we set, including both fiscal responsibility and kindness, I think the two things, the word support works better in the context than subsidy. So I would ask for council's support on that minor change. No, we don't. Thank you. It looks like we're good.
Thank you. Okay, so on to strategies around community services. So really looking at quality of life in our community and leaning into leveraging our existing assets as well as service agreements and partnerships with organizations that deliver services to our community to improve the quality of life. And looking at climate policy, really focusing on foundation practice, developing policy to apply climate and environmental sustainability across our planning and project delivery. And then as well, looking at asset management as part of our livability goals here. So developing a greater awareness of our current infrastructure position in the community. Educating the community, start producing an annual infrastructure report card, something that people can relate to and understand, so that when we are talking through budget process or looking at acquiring new assets or improving existing, people really have a better understanding of where we're at and can place that better in context, as well as formalizing our long-term capital plans for our existing assets and assets that we see in the future requiring investment in as the community grows. So that moves us on to the third focus area. So our council's third objective is around organizational excellence. And I just want to pop back here. So council was really, you've communicated at several public meetings here your commitment to building foundation practices for the city itself to be more sustainable. So organizational excellence, you're focusing around improving the organization and culture as we learn and adapt to the changing needs of the community. I'll just flip through here. So there's two goal areas here. So organizational culture, fostering health and safety, organizational excellence in the organization, as well as business modernization. So looking at ways that we can enhance the delivery of services through improved technology use, improved process improvement, project management, et cetera. So looking at the strategies within those, council is focusing on employee satisfaction, as well as making sure that we're celebrating achievements such as this milestone tonight, but celebrating internally, but also within the community, sharing the successes, because oftentimes those go unnoticed and we hear about the negatives. So as well as focusing on employee development, the local government is changing, the community is changing, the needs of the organization is always in flux, and making sure our staff are trained to meet those needs has been a focus here of this council and this plan. So as well as improving permitting processes, you heard a little bit about this last week from our manager of planning, digitizing applications such as building and development applications, tracking that, improving our business systems, and also focusing on project collaboration within cross-functional teams internally and to advance organizational priorities such as the strategies identified in this plan. So just moving on to implementation and measuring, I did speak a little bit earlier to that the implementation plan is still in development, and so we'll be working through that, and I'll speak to the timeline on that at the end here, which I think is the next slide anyhow. But measuring progress will be important, and there were some success metrics within the plan. The check underneath each success, underneath each strategy is there, but the implementation plan will include metrics, and we'll be reporting out within the annual report. So that's a legislated document. We'll be doing that in June of every year. So this document will become the roadmap for the next 5 years, and it will be continuous improvement on how we'll be implementing it. And the initial implementation, you'll start to see it within the 2024 budget process. And implementation will be phased, and appreciating council's already given some direction on priorities. There are several interdependencies, and the plan will go ahead.
Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just asking the question around the table here. Are we happy with just an annual check-in on this?
Well, I guess I would follow up with a question of my own. We will see the implementation plan when it's complete and draft, and then I think then potentially because everything we do through the year will be measured against this plan, and the implementation plan will track that. So we should have a fairly consistent sense of how this is advancing, I would think. Ms. Jensen, is that making sense?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. You're correct. And we are just building the implementation plan process right now. And again, it is building a new process for the organization. So this year it will take a little longer than in subsequent years. With regards to the annual check-in and reporting, that was really meant as like a report back to the community, as a formal reporting, and then a check-in with council. What I was meaning here is formally, prior to the budget process, doing a formal check-in. Is this still what we're focusing on? At that point, you'll already have the annual report, understanding of where we got to for the year, and then checking in, are there some external factors that are influencing us shifting something here, or do we want to change one of these strategies, or something's missing? That's kind of what I meant by that, rather than us annually checking in on. Does that provide clarity, Councillor Ramirez?
No.
Well, I don't want to invalidate your question. I think once we see the implementation plan, then I think we can revisit that question of what reporting looks like in terms of a periodic check-in. Does that make sense?
Your Worship, just in terms of timeline, right? We went into this process in March, and it's been 8 months since we started this process. And I think the original time schedule that I remember seeing was a little different from the one that we have here. It was much more accelerated. So I It's just my concern with the timeline here. We go in here, we decide on something, and then it'll be like 5 months, 6 months before I see anything come back. So my preference would be if staff actually commits to a date when they will come back with the implementation plan. I would be fine with that, but just saying something with no timeline here will just make us look less professional.
Ms. Jansen?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councilor Ramadas. You're right. The timeline I presented in the second slide of the presentation was longer than the original proposed plan. We were planning to kick off strategic planning in March with a final document by the end of September, and we're in December. So it was a delayed process. It was foundation building and a lot of additional workshops required on the staff side to get us to where we were. So while the council dialogue was quite efficient, we required additional work internally to get to where we've got to here.
Thank you. Councillor Audia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. I want to support Councillor Ramadas. The process took quite a long time, and I'm concerned about the implementation time and some comments that were made at the last meeting. It would be nice to have a clear idea of when the implementation plan will be done. Is it going to be halfway through our term before we see that? I see that as an issue.
Ms. Jansen, do you have an estimate you can provide us at this juncture? Although I will comment, I was quite satisfied in terms of we have talked about organizational development and organizational excellence as a foundational principle of our strategic plan. And you've been very clear in the development of that plan. There was some foundational work that was required at the staff level to ensure people were prepared and understood the purpose of the strategic plan and that they were engaged to implement it. So I'm perfectly satisfied with what you told us in terms of the timeline, because not least of all, because it's consistent with what we're trying to do here in terms of ensure everybody's pulling in the same direction. So thank you for that. And I know that wasn't easy. That was hard work. So despite others' lack of satisfaction with the timeline, which I can understand frustration, I think the expectation or the explanation has been clear, and it's consistent with what we're trying to accomplish with our strategic plan. So having said that, can you provide a sense of when the implementation plan would be prepared in draft form?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So I flipped the slide here to the timeline for moving into year 2 of our strategic planning process. So the plan in January is to continue this work in developing that implementation plan. And I don't have specific dates to each of these items, but where I've put the plan progress reporting annual report, which is the 4th icon on the bar, that's June. Mm-hmm. So prior to June, you'll have the implementation plan presented, but I can't provide a more specific date today, but certainly can hustle in the new year with the CAO and our leadership team, who will be tasked with developing that implementation plan to work through that right away. That said, you will be seeing elements of the implementation through the 2024 budget process that Director Burdett presented. So you'll start to see where things are aligning. It won't be we won't have a plan developed in time for the budget process this year, but seeing those threads and seeing the alignment will certainly be there.
Thank you. And that implementation plan serves the entire 5 years of the strategic plan.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So I guess to wrap that up, the intent following the annual report in June, reporting out how we have done to date, and then forward looking how we plan to move forward through the next years. We also are including that pre-budget council check-in on that strat plan. So that's a process. We're not just doing like a quick check-in meeting. We'll provide you tools and opportunity to have some dialogue around where we're at, how it's going. And again, we're just going to be designing that process in the new year here. And we'll provide an update at the earliest opportunity. And with that, if there aren't, I'll open the floor for some questions, but I'm here tonight to just ask for council for the resolution to adopt the plan as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Questions from council? Councilor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just want to elaborate a little bit about what I'm thinking here. Again, I agree with you. The document looks good. It reflects the workshops that we did. And my concern was with the timeline period. And where this is all coming here is, the previous presentation from Director Burdett kind of, shows that we won't know what our financial spending is, right? It's just going to be a guess estimate, not even that, if I heard it right. So come February, March, me as a councillor, I want to support the staff in the financial planning, but I feel like I'm kind of blinded with no dashboard here on what our strategic priorities are and how they are moving on one hand, and also not knowing what we are spending right now. So in order for a councillor to be effective here, I feel like these two foundational elements need to be done, and there should be a sense of urgency to get them done. That's all I want to say.
Well, and to my comments earlier, there, as I understand it, and accepting Ms. Jansen's explanation for some of the delay of the development of the strategic plan, in my mind, was dead consistent with some of the foundational elements of that plan in terms of socializing it with our staff. And if you're not satisfied with that explanation, please say so. But I understand that we don't have it in hand in the timely fashion we'd hoped for, but we now have it in hand in order for us to step forward and for it to inform our decision-making, particularly as we go into budget. Any further questions for Ms. Jansen? Councilor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. Not so much a question as a comment. Yes, I see the look of surprise in all of your faces. I guess the comment I'd like to make is, one, I'm very impressed with where we've gotten to so far and understanding of some of the delays, as you indicated, Your Worship, that there's been good explanations for that. I know that we're all champing at the bit to do a great job in this role, and we are hoping for a great plan that supports us in that. I would say that what we have been presented with and what we have workshopped and so on is already bending to our guidance, to our decision making, and I hope that it's going to continue to do so. The implementation plan, which is hopefully going to sync up where staff and council are at on the particular priorities, excited to see it. Hope it comes along sooner rather than later. But from a policy perspective, as a policy group and a governance group, we've laid out what our strategy is. We've laid out what our goals is. We've laid out the lenses that we are going to look through when we're solving problems and addressing them. And I think that that's extremely valuable. I'm glad we're here. I'm not interested in starting a debate at the table, but I'm not sure that I understand the specific issue that Councilor Ramadas raised, which is understanding that the month-to-month accrual cash flow of the city. I understand from a management perspective why that would be super valuable, but since specific changes, as we had from Director Bird earlier, when there are changes to the plan, they are brought to council and presented to us, and we discuss them and decide whether or not this is a good change or not. That's an ongoing basis. I'm not sure what the value of knowing what month-to-month spending is at the policy level versus knowing what the changes are that are happening. So I wonder if Councilor Ramirez wouldn't mind giving us a bit more of an explanation about why that's so valuable.
Please, Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Worship. Again, it's not getting into technical details of, accruals. That was not my question at all. My question was our spend rate, right? You said we spend $100. Are we at $100 today or $105? Is there any kind of course correction we could do between now and come budget season so that we are in a situation where we can propose a tax rate hike that is appropriate? I don't know why this became a technical issue. That was not my point at all. And it's the whole overall thing is like, I don't want to be running blind into budget season. That was my point. And the strategic priorities too, not looking for line to line explanation of where each project is going, but at least have an idea of the decision that we are making in the grand scheme of things. Does it fit where it should be? And should we course correct there also? So it's more in terms of strategic priority, where it is sitting in the 5-year plan, and also how are we spending today, so that our budget decision in the following year is actually based on some kind of work that we would have done prior. Right now, I just feel like I'm running blind.
Yeah, well, just reflecting on Councillor McIsaac's comments and appreciating your perspective, Councillor Ramirez. I think now we do have a strategic framework where we can look at each project and gauge it in terms of where it fits in our overall priorities as a community. And to your point, not to belabor the technical issue, I think as we get into our budget discussions, enhancing or focusing on that question of how do we have, and we've had the conversation at the table lots, we never have perfect information. How do we have better information to inform our decision-making going forward? I think that I cannot argue with you. It's vitally important for all of us. And I think I absolutely agree.
Sorry, Worship. That's exactly my point. I don't know why whenever I bring that up, it becomes a point of, I'm trying to defend some managerial way of doing things. That's not my point at all.
No, I think, so thank you for being patient with us and letting us sort of get there. And I think both our entire team, including our Director of Finance, appreciates the best information we can have in the most timely fashion is what we're looking for in terms of how we develop our budget and understand our spend going forward. Mr. Burdett.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Thank you, Councillor Ramirez, for the discussion. I just wanted to share that your frustration is you're not alone. It's shared internally and it's shared at my desk too. And I can say that it's gotten, I've only been here 3 years and it's gotten a lot better. And in terms of estimates, that was just me talking about, at this point in time. If I compare our financial statements to a large publicly traded company, for example, they have, even their audited statements has, millions of dollars worth of accruals and estimates, and ours has zero because it is public taxpayer money. So we need to, come January and February, we are chasing suppliers and whatnot really hard to get invoices so that we can get as close to actuals as possible. And come budget presentation, that will be more available for council in a more accurate state. For this year's budget process, we have created some, just as an example of some changes we're making to try and provide council with more decision-making tools. We have created an internal budget review committee that's made up of some members of the leadership team. And that committee's job is to look at our capital plan, proposed capital plan as a whole, how it aligns with council's strategic plan, how it fits in with everyone's work plans, which projects in a certain department affects the work plans of everyone else's department, and then really trying to take a realistic view of what is achievable for this year. And you'll see that come through our spend rate in future years. But it also, like, the results of that committee and that capital plan will be, I hope it will be evident in our presentation to council that we've put, more effort into providing the best decision-making tools that we can. I don't know if that helps your point, but I just wanted to share that.
And it does, in my mind, circle back to that notion of, as we're early in our term, the more meetings in terms of the budget discussion, the better. So that, we are fully briefed and understand the inputs to our decision making. Councillor Ramanas.
Just wanted to add a point to that, Your Worship. I appreciate that a better report might come in the month of February, but my concern is it's after the fact. It's like the year is done, and if the tax hike rate proposed is like 6% or 7%, we just have to agree with it. Like, if we had a sense of where the spend rate is in between the year, and I'm not even talking about capital, I'm talking about operating expense, we can probably come up with some solutions where we can reduce the burden for the taxpayers. So that's what I was trying to get at here. And, I appreciate, still getting a wholesome view in February is phenomenal. I appreciate that. It's just that it might be a little too late.
Yeah, in terms of the spend in 2023, certainly, but it does provide guidance. It's difficult to course correct in the year, for sure. I absolutely hear what you're saying, but it does provide guidance, at least on decision making for the following year. But I know we have talked at some length about a dashboard that would include some financial metrics so that we do have a sense. And I know that's still on the project priority list, and I think sort of based on this conversation, probably we might want to look at where that is in terms of developing it as a priority, because I know we've asked council, not just yourself, but many at this table have asked for a dashboard to give us that kind of insight. Good. Any further comments, questions for Ms. Jansen on the strategic plan? Councillor Adia Kelly.
Just to clarify, Your Worship, we won't have an implementation plan in sync with budget. I just wanted to make sure that I did understand that properly.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Adia Kelly. That's correct. We will not have a robust 5-year implementation plan for the strategic plan by February. We are targeting the process development over the next several weeks into January, and we'll be prioritizing that work. But based on our estimated timeline, we're looking at a plan developed in time for our annual reporting in June.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Mr. Baranowski.
If I can provide one clarification to council, that does not mean that implementation does not figure into the budget, and especially that first and second year implementation does not figure into the budget. It just simply means that we are not going to be able to scaffold out a 5-year comprehensive implementation plan in the time between now and then.
Yeah, and I think that circles back to Councillor McIsaac's comments of that we do have a philosophical framework which we can apply to our budget and project prioritization, but the overall implementation plan will take some time, and I appreciate that. But as you can tell, it is a priority. So I know you appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will ask Mr. McConnell to read the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. There was a direction to change a word within the plan. I wasn't sure if council wanted to ensure that that was captured in the resolution. The word from subsidy.
Please,
okay.
For me.
Yes. So the suggestion is that council adopt the council strategic plan for the corporation of the city of Fernie with the amendment to the word subsidy to support, I believe is the word. Okay, so the council adopt the council strategic plan for the corporation of the city of Fernie with the direction to amend the word subsidy to support.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And thank you, Council. It was a good, robust conversation. I appreciate it. We go around these issues often, and appreciate that people are not afraid to raise them. Thank you. This has moved us on to item 9.2, report from our Deputy Fire Chief, Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Just bear with me.
Oh, Councillor.
Again, thank you, Your Worship and Council. Probably comes as a surprise. I spent 25 years in information technology. I can't work a computer. So yes, I'm here before you tonight to ask Council to support application to the UBCM for the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for volunteer and composite fire departments, and for the Fernie Fire Department to be approved to authorise the administration of that grant. So I just have the one slide for you tonight, which is basically a breakdown of the grant. The grant that we're seeking is a $30,000 grant. That's the maximum grant allowed. And the grant does provide 100% contribution for equipment and training. What that means is there's no matching funds required of council. So the 30,000 will be supplied by UBCM, and the council and City Fernie do not have to provide matching funds to that. The grant is aimed at equipment and training for fire departments. And this is what we submitted or submit as our application to UBCM for the equipment, a $20,000 total, which will include electric positive pressure fan, 3 sets of turnout gears, and some other PPE, fire hoods and gloves. And then $10,000 of that 30 would go towards training to provide Fire Officer 1 training for 3 of our firefighters and Fire Officer 2 training for 3 of our firefighters. It's fair to say that certainly the training numbers probably will not cover the cost of all that training. It will be to supplement our existing training budget in the budget. With respect to the equipment, that will not add any capital overheads to the city. The electric positive pressure fan is there as a replacement to one we already have. It's a gas fan. It's at least 10 years old, best guess maybe 15, 20 years old, and is well beyond its lifespan. And so we'll be replacing that with an electric.
Sorry, that's a battery powered electric?
It is, yes.
fan.
Yes.
Okay.
It's battery and mains. So we can, there's a battery inside it, so we can run it for 20 minutes on battery, but if that starts to fade, we can also
Run a cord to it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
With regards to turnout gear has a lifespan of 10 years. And so we're continually having to go through a rotational process on that. And so using this grant to buy turnout gear will just help us to phase out the now expired turnout gear. So essentially that's the grant breakdown in a summary. That's what we'll be applying for, and open to questions.
Questions for Deputy Chief Robinson? Seeing none, I'll ask Mr. McConnell to read the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that Council endorse an application to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, UBCM, under the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, CEPF, for volunteer and composite fire departments to support the Fernie Fire Department with purchasing equipment and training to improve the safety and efficiency of firefighters, and that the Fernie Fire Department be authorized to provide overall grant management for the project.
Could I have a mover? Councillor Hamilton, Councillor McIsaac seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Deputy Chief. That's unanimous.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council.
Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick comment here with regards to the granting program, and that is a recollection. I feel like the deputy chief has been up here 4 or 5 years in a row, and very successfully, I might add. And so, thank you for the work that gets done to support the department through these grants. But I'm wondering, does he need to come here to ask us if he can apply for a grant? And perhaps maybe the CEO Boranowski or Corporate Officer Connell might be able to answer the question if there's a legal requirement why that has to happen, why that can't be just
I can advise that
delegated.
Deputy Chief Robinson came forward with this. He actually made the application in advance. However, the application requires the support of a council resolution for it to be considered.
So he's made the application already.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Boranowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. That is the case with most grants. You'll find that a council resolution formally endorsing it, as well as a commitment of our proportion of funds, certified resolution confirming the funding source like a reserve will be required.
Thank you. But just for clarity, this one required no commitment of funds on the city's part. Thank you. Okay. Where's he going? Oh, he's presenting. That's right. Sorry, Mr. McConnell. Item 9.3, council meeting schedule.
That's all right. And you've got me for the rest of the night. I scheduled this in such a way that I was the final presenter for the balance of the night. So I will take a look at what PowerPoints are open and notice that the close the ones that are my PowerPoints are nowhere near as intense for space as a person with more technology than I know. So with that, I will start the slide. So every year, this is the second time for this council, but every year we have to come back and review a council meeting schedule for the upcoming year. Section 127 of the community charter requires council to make available to the public the schedule of the council meetings annually. Our procedure bylaw, which was adopted tonight, indicates that regular meetings are to be held or are held beginning at 6:30 p.m. I will note for all of you that next week's committee of the whole is still at 6 p.m. The committee of the whole is not set out. The time starting that is not set out in the procedure bylaw, and you guys adopted a resolution last year to hold them at 6 p.m. So next week's meeting is still at 6 p.m. 6:30 will start in January for all of them. Schedule presented that you're seeing tonight is on the agenda does show on the calendar portion of it the various council conferences and education sessions it goes to, including the Local Government Leadership Academy, the Association of Kootenay Boundary Local Government Conference, FCM Conference, which is in Calgary, and the UBCM Conference. Those are for reference. Those are not part of your schedule per se. The committee schedule does include committee of the whole on the third Tuesday of the month as directed, except for in September, of course, when the UBCM conference will be happening at the same time. So this is the schedule showing all the various meetings. It is second and fourth Tuesday of every month for regular. It is third Tuesday of the month for committee of the whole. The month of July only has one regular meeting, as has been the practice. The month of December only has one regular meeting, again, has been the practice. I'm not sure you guys want to meet on Christmas Eve in any event. Might not be the most fun. And it also shows that committee of the whole will not be scheduled in September as UBCM is on. So with that, the recommendation is the council adopt the schedule as presented. So I'm available for questions.
Questions for Mr. McConnell? Councilor McKenzie. and then Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just noting the comments by Mr. McConnell with regards to a specific resolution was passed for the Committee of the Whole at 6 o'clock. I note that in the schedule, it says that the new Committee of the Wholes will be passed at 6:30. Is passing the procedure bylaw sufficient, or does an additional resolution for moving Committee of the Whole to 6:30 need to happen?
The bylaw is sufficient, plus the Committee of the Whole resolution was done for the Committee of the Wholes that were coming up for this year. The schedule itself, when you adopt it tonight, it's the resolution to set the schedule of the meetings.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you, Worship. Just to have a question to Mr. McConnell. This calendar looks exactly like 2023 calendar. Is there any difference between the two?
It's 2024.
But the number of days and everything is
Basically, it's exactly the same.
got a follow up there, Worship. With between that and moving it to 6:30, I just want to be a little cautious with the length of the agenda at times, because certain times, as you've noticed, we are grappling with the weighty items on the agenda, and we're like short on time. Now, if we move it to 6:30 and also have the similar number of days as this year, I just don't want to be in a situation where I'm making 5 or 6 massive decisions at 9:30 in the night.
I very much appreciate the question, and I know there is an effort by staff to balance the agenda so we don't get these heavyweight agendas that often. But Mr. McConnell, if you want to speak to that.
Certainly, and I'm not sure if Councillor Hadia-Kelly's question is a follow up to that or not. But what we do is we do review with staff. We maintain a tracker with respect to all reports coming forward, and we try to ensure that staff understand the level of work they're putting on the council agendas. And so we try to maintain it in such a way that those decisions are staggered in such a way that council's able to give due consideration to all subjects on a council meeting and not give you a really long meeting like we gave you a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there are going to be occasionally times like that, but it's entirely our goal not to do that. So we have also shared with all of our staff, again, after that one in particular, that we want to ensure that people understand what they're putting onto the agendas, that we are trying to set it up in such a way that it's not such a long waiting meeting. Like tonight's meeting, for instance, there's a lot more reports, but my reports aren't very meaty, thankfully. But with respect to that, that's our goal and that's our intent. When we land in a meeting like the one that we had a couple of weeks ago, that is not by design. That is just by the fact that there are times when there's going to be a couple of things come on, like the fire hall project and the McElhaney report, which are going to conflict and to come at the same time. And it's not necessarily because that's what we want to do. It's because that's the timeliness of those reports. The fire hall report had to come at that, had to be brought to you and to continue to advance. The McElhaney report had to be brought to you and to continue to advance because they had a reporting requirement with respect to the grant that was supporting that. So it's unfortunate. We don't try to do that. We do try to level them off. And I respect your comments. We are in a position where if it does come down to it, for instance, like on the fire hall, it might be that we ask council to schedule a special meeting to consider that one weighty item. And that is always available, and we will not hesitate to do so.
Councillor Hadia-Kelly, and then back to you, sir.
Actually, Your Worship, that was going to be my question is to corporate officer. What would be the requirements then, just to refresh my memory, sorry, when we want to call a special meeting to discuss something that we maybe want to completely focus on? Do we have that 2-week notice?
It's a shorter notice period. It's set out in the bylaw and the legislation as well. But literally, in order for it to be a substantive meeting and a good meeting, it's better to give as much notice as possible, such that the materials can be put on. For instance, if we were to look to set up a special consideration of, I'll use the fire hall as an example because it was a very weighty meeting. But if we were to do that and we want to take that report of that, we would canvass council first as to their ability to meet at that time and confirm availabilities, because obviously quorum will be important, but also ensuring that as many council members are in attendance as possible, because it's a weighty meeting and you should all be able to consider it. So that, and then providing time to prepare the reports and to do all that work. Actual public notice is, quite honestly, it's a 24-hour period. So it's a very short period. Having said that, we will be asking council, and we're essentially doing it because committee of the whole is next week. We are setting up a special meeting of council next week to follow committee of the whole. And part of the reason for that is because of the fact you've passed third reading on 3 bylaws tonight. At least 2 of them, it would be nice to have them adopted before year end, including the municipal parks and facilities bylaw with respect to fees, because they want those fees to be in place on January 1st. So next week, we're going to be scheduling a special council meetings primarily for those purposes. But as well at that time, we're going to bring the discretionary grants committee recommendations to that meeting, because they did meet on the 28th, and it's an opportunity to have that discussion as well. So the longer notice, the better. There is a provision for short notice, but the question then becomes, what's the value of the meeting? And that's a council consideration.
Councillor Ramirez?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone. Like, I'm completely supportive of the staff's schedule here. It's perfectly fine with me. And also in terms of weighty files, that's also fine. I think you are also the same. We signed up for this job.
Mm-hmm.
If it's got to be done, we will do it. It's just that the amount of time that is required in discussions, that takes quite a bit of time, and we might run out of time, and we'll have to pass a resolution to go past 10 p.m. That's my only concern, really.
Yeah, no, I very much appreciate your concern, because I think we've all felt it, that we've been in the room and are approaching. And in fact, at a recent meeting, we chose to adjourn and pick it up the next night, because the decisions required were weighty enough that we wanted to defer them where we were all a bit fresher. So I very much appreciate the concern. I think we all share it. I think we want to be on our best game when. So as such, the efforts, appreciating that it won't always be the case, Mr. McConnell, the effort made to keep the agendas manageable is always appreciated.
Thank you. And we certainly share these thoughts with all staff and leadership, and of course, leadership and management are present through the meetings. So they're hearing your concerns as well. And when we share with them those kinds of concerns, they're obviously now able to hear your positions on that as well. But having said that, I'm not hearing any amendments to my.
No.
Okay. So would you like me to read the recommendation?
Yes, please.
That council adopt the 2024 schedule of upcoming meetings as presented in the council meeting schedule attached to this report dated December 12th, 2023.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audia Kelly. Any further discussion? No, just for me, just to commend our youth councillor for his deft negotiations in terms of 6:30 versus 7. So thank you for that. Yeah, well done. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Continuing with the corporate officer show, item 9.4.
Yes, Your Worship. This next one is the deputy mayor appointments, and excuse me while I remind myself what I just did 2 minutes ago. All right, so for the 2024 deputy mayor appointments, similar scenario under the procedure bylaw, annually in December, council must choose the deputy mayor appointments. And those persons will fulfill the role of the mayor when the absence of the mayor. And as well, we've got it covered that if both the deputy mayor and the mayor and the deputy mayor are absent, then the next person in line would be acting mayor in those circumstances, such that we don't have to hopefully choose from among ourselves to get a chair for a meeting, for instance. So the schedule presented before you actually, in this case, Councillor Ramadassi might note, reflects entirely the 2023 schedule. There's no changes to it. I reviewed this with his worship and we did not see a need to change. However, council members may determine that they have a conflict and aren't able to fulfill that role. If they want to speak up now, we would happily take that. But if you're satisfied, I would recommend that council adopt this schedule.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Any discussion, any obvious conflicts for folks? Seeing none, if you don't mind reading the recommendation, Mr. McConnell.
Certainly. That the following council members be appointed as deputy mayor for the months of January and February 2024, Councillor Hamilton, March and April 2024, Councillor McIsaac, May and June 2024, Councillor Audia Kelly, July and August 2024, Councillor Ramadas, September and October 2024, Councillor Shoesmith, November and December 2024, Councillor Nixon.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Ramadas. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Item 9.5, Mr. McConnell.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I don't see my presentation in here. I apologize for that. My presentation was literally just a slide with the recommendations that are in the agenda package. So every year council is to go through the committee and board appointments. The committee and board appointments for 2024 reflect some changes from the year. We're recommending that, again, with the meeting with His Worship Mayor Milligan, council appointing the mayor as the MIABC delegate at the UBCM meeting with Councillor Nixon as his alternate. With respect to the Tanaha Kimbasket Treaty Advisory Committee, that it's Mayor Milligan again be appointed with Councillor Hamilton as the alternate. And for the Discretionary Grants Committee, there's a bit of a change up here that Councillor Audia Kelly, Councillors Nixon and Councillor Ramadas be appointed to the discretionary grants. And for the Parcel Tax Review Panel, Councillors Hamilton, Councillors McIsaac and Councillor Shoesmith be appointed. And I'm prepared to receive any questions.
Any questions? Any concerns with the assignments as presented? Seeing none? Oh, sorry, Councillor McIsaac.
Okay, well, there are 4 recommendations individually, so I'll read them out as we go.
Nice try.
Yeah, and like it's not like it's not like I really want to read out this much. The staff recommendation 1 is that council appoints Mayor Milligan as Municipal Insurance Association delegate to vote on behalf of council during the Union of British Columbia Municipalities UBCM convention in September 2024 with Councillor Nixon as alternate.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Next one is that council appoint Mayor Milligan to the Tanaha Kimbasket Treaty Advisory Committee with Councillor Hamilton as alternate for a term of 1 year beginning January 2024.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audia Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? Also unanimous.
Next one is that council appoint Councillor Audia Kelly, Councillor Nixon, and Councillor Ramadas to the Discretionary Grants Committee for a term of 1 year beginning January 2024.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
And finally, on this one, the council appoint Councillors Hamilton, Councillor McIsaac, and Councillor Shoesmith to the Parcel Tax Review Panel for a term of 1 year beginning January 2024.
Moved by Councillor Audia Kelly, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you. And my next one.
Please. Do you have a lengthy PowerPoint for this one?
Hugely lengthy. And council notice and motion policy. So I can present this because you adopted the council procedure bylaw amendment. At the November 14th Committee of the Whole meeting, Council reviewed the proposed amendments to the procedure bylaw. In those amendments, we recommended a notice of motion process, which is within the bylaw, and then that is supported by a notice of motion policy, which was presented at that meeting as well. Council directed us to continue down that path. With the adoption of the bylaw, we're now in order to adopt the motion policy. So just with respect to that, I missed a slide here, sorry. There is a slight amendment to the notice of motion policies compared to what was presented at the Committee of the Whole. This slide shows the track changes. It's primarily around a referral of a resolution back to staff, confirming that it's under the direction of the CAO. Staff will report back to council by way of a staff report as soon as possible, either addressing the issue or outlining any potential implications. Essentially clarifying the roles in there. And really, other than any questions council may have, the recommendations to adopt the policy. And that's it, subject to questions.
Questions? Seeing none. Sorry, do you have the recommendation in front of you?
I do. I brought my stuff with me. And the recommendation is council adopt Council Notice of Motion Policy CP 2023-002.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audie Kelly. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That is my package of presentations.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. That moves us on to correspondence. There is one item of correspondence. City of Fernie bear human conflict. Any comments or discussion? I did want to comment that and it's timely given we've just approved the notice of motion policy, that I will be bringing a notice of motion to, I think there is real value in forming whether it's ultimately called the City of Fernie Wildlife Conflict Action Group to council, but I do see value in engaging our citizens in terms of this initiative, not least of all because it can then liaise with a broader, more regional committee, the Regional Carnivore Coexistence Committee that Dr. Clayton Lamb is spearheading. So I thought it was very valuable. Councillor Audie Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Milligan. I would support you there, and I would really appreciate a delegation to council in the future to discuss this in a more fulsome way. Maybe some of their recommendations, some of the things that they think we could do better in the community. I'd really appreciate hearing from said committee.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think one of the opportunities is to put them. Let's see, Mr. Kite, of course, is present, but to put him in touch with bylaw, who are currently going through an exhaustive effort to understand our city statistics in terms of this year, because as we all are aware, it was a bad year for particularly carnivore conflict in the community. So I think there's real value in this. So I will be bringing it forward at the next opportunity. Awesome. Thank you. Moving on to item 11, reports from council. We've reflecting on Councillor Ramadas's earlier comments. We've had so many weighty agendas. We haven't gone through this at all recently. So we'll do the rounds. Why don't we start with our youth councillor? Thank you, Councillor Ennis.
All right. I would say the only thing I have to report on is I've been accepted to go to Youth Parliament here in late December. So I've been doing some shopping for clothes. No, but I am, in all seriousness, I am very excited to go. It'll be a great opportunity. As well as with the Citizen Satisfaction Survey, I've been going around advertising that for people within my age demographic. And so as of this morning, I believe, there's been 40 people within the 13 to 18 age range who have completed the survey. And so I hope by December 17th, that number only grows.
Oh, thank you for that. And thank you for taking that initiative. That's excellent. Thank you. Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. It's been so long, I'd forgotten that we did this anymore. I'm ill prepared. I'll say simply that I enjoyed visiting with the Christmas train tonight, and that's all I'm going to report on this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. The one that I want to report on is Elk Valley Streak begins in January of 2024. So for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the idea is for people to move for half hour every day in the month of January, just promoting active living. It's just a terrific start to the new year. It's free for youth and pets, and $10 for adults. And if you haven't already, I ask you to register on zone4.ca. And City of Fernie is participating. Your Worship, you're on the team there. A couple of councillors. I know CEO Bernowski and his staff is also participating in it. So yeah, let's get moving in the new year.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the encouragement. Have we sorted out, like, are we now on a team page on that website?
It is a little complicated than that. You want to answer to that, CAO?
I don't think I have much more detail than
Yeah.
you just shared, Councillor. I saw your team and was committed to challenging your team with a staff team, and then registered and missed where I should have put my team in, so I'm not on a team. But I am thinking that Strava might be a better way to actually track a small group of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I have.
No, thank you for that.
No.
Right? I know.
Because I didn't put your team name in exactly. I just put City Fernie Council. There's no way to change it to the original. So sorry for the frustration.
That's okay. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I had a whole bunch of stuff, but I can't remember what it is because it's been a while. But the one I did make two notes, and one was I had a great meeting last week with the staff and council from Yakadak Nucleate with kind of, I don't want to say start of the reconciliation journey because it's already started, but sitting down with them for the first time in a council to council manner. And also was really great to see all of the happy faces up at the ski hill this past weekend after last week's atmospheric river event, and how fortunate we were and the ski hill was to bounce back with, I don't even know how much snow they got, but it was a lot and it was fun.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? I mean, some of my previous reports are just go on and on and on, but this is going to be pretty light. Yeah, I was down in at Tobacco Plains as well, and I felt very privileged to be down there meeting with Nisuk and Gravel and the rest of the councillors. I think it was and having all the staff there as well. It was it was fantastic. The other thing that we did was the Christmas party, which was fantastic. That was a lot of fun, and congratulations to staff, all the staff that were involved in creating that. And I think that's about it, but I'm sure there's other stuff too. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Adia Kelly.
Okay, apologies, Your Worship. This isn't as brief. It has been a little bit, so it's been a minute. I did attend 100 Women Who Care, and that $10,000 was raised and given to two local charities, Angel Flight and Uplift Community. I also was invited to and had the pleasure of attending the Elk Valley Métis dinner a couple of weeks ago. It was a lovely evening, sharing culture and stories. I was asked to do that, speak, and it was really fun. Card bingo, prizes. So I would like to say to the Elk Valley Métis, merci, miigwech, for the kind invitation. I also have been attending some Ghost Rider games, and I have seen our youth counselor there too. So go Riders. It's always great to see the boys playing. I wanted to thank the staff who organized this city party. It was lovely. Really good company. Enjoyed it very much. I also had a lovely time tonight with Councillor McIsaac at the holiday train. Now, I have a couple things that I'm not sure, Your Worship, I still haven't wrapped my head around the notice of motion thing and we just changed it. I would like to add FCM to a future meeting if we could.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I have an ask of actually Director or our corporate officer, our financial officer, Burdett. And I apologize if this is a motion thing, but I'm just curious about what is our overall borrowing capacity as a municipality? I sort of understood from reading the BC government stuff that there is a limit and it's tied to our ability to debt service and per capita. And I just wondered, how does our borrowing, because we have a couple of really important needs in the community, such as our fire hall, our wastewater, our, things like that. So how does borrowing for one thing impact borrowing another? Are we looking at a holistic way to borrow? And could you give us an idea of what that means to an individual taxpayer in terms of a percentage tax increase needed to debt service per million borrowed? And I don't expect you to answer tonight. If you could, at some time in the future.
Mr. Burdett?
Thank you, Councillor Audia Kelly. There is a formula and I know where it is. I just don't have it handy, but I will bring that back next week. And yeah, you're welcome.
Councillor Ravenous?
Your worship, can I actually motion a resolution on this? Maybe ask staff to bring back an analysis of what Councillor Audia Kelly just mentioned, maybe before our decision to decide on the fire hall site location.
Mr. McConnell, I would look to you for some direction here.
Literally, this is where I was going to say, this is where the notice of motion policy would come into play. So I would suggest that if council's looking to make a resolution, we would ask that it be in the form of a notice of motion. If Director Burdett's already indicating that he's going to be providing the information in advance of that being completed, I'm not sure that there's but if council wants to do that, I would suggest strongly that the notice of motion policy be followed. And in that case, it would be submitted to us and we would put it on the agenda for January the 9th and we go from there.
Could it be submitted and put on the special agenda meeting next week?
It would then be on the agenda and then it would be agreed that it would be put on to the January 9th for discussion.
But Mr. Burdett, you indicated you could bring that back for next time. Would that a week from now suffice?
Yes. Excuse me. A week from now, it would essentially just be what the formula is and how that relates to our most recently reported annual results, and then just some general math about how much we can borrow. I would assume current interest rates, and then do some math on what an annual payment would look like. But then in terms of how it relates to the fire hall, obviously that depends on a lot. It depends on our funding strategy. It depends on what grants we can get. It depends on how much money we have in reserves. It depends on how much money we intend to borrow for that. And all of that would be done as part of the fire hall project anyway. But yeah, and so I couldn't speculate on that by next week, but I could bring some general math behind the formula.
Is that satisfactory? Because the fire hall, as you say, there are some vagaries in there, including co-uses and the potential funding streams that they provide. So there's a broad suite of opportunity there that we need to investigate as part of that project. So, Councillor Ravenous? Okay, you just turned your mic off. Sorry. There you go.
Again, I'll let Councillor Audia Kelly also reply to that, but I'm okay with that, Your Worship, as long as there is a general sort of an analysis done.
An understanding of
knowing that there are some unknowns, it's fine. At least we'll get a sense of what the money is before we make the crucial decision.
Councillor Audia Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, that's what I was more looking for, is to give us an idea of, kind of like our spend limit,
what the parameters
what
are.
the parameters are
Yeah.
and how that affects the taxpayer, no matter what we spend it on.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's just sort of a general
It-
overview.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which would in turn inform other decisions.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship.
Mr. Bornowski,
I'd like to just ask a clarifying question if I could.
please.
Is council comfortable then with essentially what my understanding is two streams of information coming back to you? A, general information about our borrowing limit, what a say $1 million borrowing or cap, what a interest payment on $1 million worth of borrowing would be to help you make informed decisions moving forward. And then second, you're comfortable with the funding strategy, which is part of scope of the ongoing fire hall project work remaining within the scope of that project.
Yes, for me. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
See a sense around the table. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Oh, me. I have to give my council report. Sorry. This is where everybody stands up and leaves. Kidding. So covering a lot of the same ground as Councillor Makaze likes to say, potentially putting an extra coat of paint on some of these things. Yes, Christmas party, great fun. Thank you to the Christmas party planning committee. And every time I say that, I can't help but think of The Office. But it was a great event and I really appreciated. It was very well attended, and I think generally people had a great time. I attended a tech water quality open house in this building. Not a lot of revelations, except there is sustained optimism for a reversing trend in selenium in the Elk River, given the Fording River south or north is coming on stream. And they actually had some data that would support. They're not willing to say it's a trend yet, but that there was some framing of it as having turned a corner. So cautiously optimistic. Tomorrow, again in this room, I know some of us are attending the Rotary Seniors Lunch, which is a great Christmas event, and volunteering as a waiter, which I've always enjoyed. Great bunch of folks. Holiday train again, that's always fun. I have to hand it to the city, to the citizens of Fernie, and the number of people who turned out. Looking out from that train, the whole station square was packed, and great turnout and great support for our local food bank. So thank you to the community for that. And just two quick last things. Yeah, I agree, Councillor Nixon, in terms of the turnout and the value of that meeting with Yakutat Nucleate, with Nasukan Gravel and her team and her staff, and our team and staff that were able to attend. It was, I think, very valuable and another important step along the reconciliation, truth and reconciliation continuum. And finally, I had great fun one Saturday afternoon being Santa Claus for Fernie's pets. Santa Paws, apparently. And the Santa suit I was provided with came out of an Eaton's box that looks like it's from the 1940s. And it felt like it was from the 1940s. So be warned if you're ever asked. Either bring your own or get another one. So thank you for that. Thank you, as always, Council and those in attendance and those who've watched online. Unless there's anything else, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.